Welcome back. It's been forever.
So long.
So in the last episode, we chatted about everything.
Should we
that we didn't
specify
get to
that
chat
we
about.
all just laughed because we just took a quick break from recording this episode?
It's been approximately 5.5 minutes. It was really long. I missed you guys. Yeah.
It's like you watching the revival after the last show ended.
It's true. This is kind of like the revival.
Yeah. That felt like the most like wild inside joke that everyone's gonna be like, why did they just all start laughing at each other?
And all of our just like laugh track.
Exactly. So welcome back. Here we are again. So last episode, we kind of got a chance to dissect everything season 5 through the revival and everything we didn't get a chance to talk about in our first episode together. But what we wanted to do in honor of June 3rd, because this would have been Lorelai and Luke's anniversary. And unfortunately, their anniversary ends up being November 5th. So they eventually do it. But this would have been their anniversary if they had gotten married during the April Nardini era, which of course is a major kind of bugaboo in the fandom. Yeah, it's a little bit of a sore spot. So we wanted to kind of take some relationship sore spots and conflict, and as a couple that has is known for having a very strong, sturdy relationship as the two of you are, we would really love to kind of hear your takes on this, what you would have done differently. For some of these, you'll be in the scenario as the characters, but in other ones, you'll be kind of like the stable relationship that these characters lean on for we're gonna start with season 1. We're gonna go in chronological order. So in season 1, it was clear that Tristan liked Rory, but went about it in a very toxic teenager boy kind of way. As high school sweethearts, what would y'all have told Tristan to do to land him in a better spot with Rory Gilmore?
I feel like we have talked about this.
Bullying your high school crush only works for the girl. The boys, you can't bully your crush. Like girls can like go like it's the kind of the classic like if a girl in like elementary school bullies you or like is like making fun of you a lot, like maybe she has a crush on you. The boy, that doesn't work on the other side. It just makes you look like a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that like he could have teased her in like a kinder way. Like, you know, there's something to be said for like teasing. You know, I think like when we first started, like there were moments of like kind of poking fun at each other and like that was like flirting, but it never felt like mean. Like I feel like sometimes he would say things where you're just like, do you like her actually? Or
it was
not?
never at the expense. You don't want it to be at the expense of the person. And I feel like a lot of times young men, boys, they're so insecure about the fact that they have these feelings. And so they're like, how can I make myself less insecure by putting someone else down? So it seems counterintuitive, but what I would tell a young kid, a young boy, is that, hey, it's not cool. It doesn't make women like you by putting them down. You should actually try to lift them up and put yourself down. And that's always kind of been when it was our humor early on. I think my humor, self-deprecating humor, is always a win.
Yeah. But other person deprecating is not necessarily.
Never.
No, I agree.
Yeah, it was kind of a bummer because I wonder if Tristan had been nicer to her, if there may have been some chemistry there. I think it worked out the way that it was supposed to. You know, she had a boyfriend and, you know, for the time that she and Dean were together in season 1, at least, I think that was the right person for her. But I think that she definitely maybe was intrigued by Tristan, kind of in the same way she ends up being intrigued by Jess. Jess just doesn't bully her.
Yeah.
Jess is enamored by her ultimately, and that's probably Jess's redeeming factor amongst his, you know, kind of broodiness, is that he's so enamored by Rory. Tristan, you kind of wouldn't be able to tell other than the amount of attention he's showing Rory. So a wiser, older person might go, oh, well, he's got a crush on her. But a 16-year-old girl that's the butt of all his jokes is not going to know that.
Not going to feel that way at all.
Definitely not. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, like, he's probably very scared of the feelings that he has for her because, like, you know, teenage boys, like when they haven't experienced feelings like this and they're not used to sharing their feelings, maybe that is their impulse, is to kind of deflect and then subsequently put someone else down in the name of trying to hide their feelings. And I think that Tristan was really used to like being the kind of like flirty, oh, I'm just gonna get the girl by like putting her down a little bit and she's going to want to be with me. And Brie Gilmore was just like, absolutely not. I'm not going to take your crumbs.
Yeah. You have to
like
earn me.
she, I miss that, Rory.
And I love that. I miss it too.
I miss
Where'd she
her.
go?
Where did she go? I want her back.
Do you think
great
that,
advice.
do you think Tristan would have taken your advice?
No. No.
Great.
Tristan was the kind of kid that made fun of me in elementary school.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's because Tristan, you can tell by the scene with his dad, the little we do see of it. Tristan's got some demons to face, and he will face. He faced those off screen elsewhere when whatever, all the rom-coms he went on to film.
Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill, A Cinderella Story. We saw him fight them.
Yes. He also had demons with his father in A Cinderella Story.
He did. You're right. You're so right. Sorry, Dad.
So true.
My dream. It's your dream.
She whips it out. You're quoting her movie.
Oh my
God.
It. Thank you so much for that. That really just made a day.
So good.
So Hunter, now you're going to be in the story in season 2. If you need a reminder of the scenario, because this is from There's the Rub, when Lorelai goes to the spa with Emily. And this is, how would you react if Maya said she wanted the night to herself to eat Indian food and do laundry and said she would see you tomorrow? Would you call yourself a saint?
I would say go off, Queen. Have a night by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. This is a answer that if I was Dean's age at that point in my life, I probably would have reacted similar to Dean. I would have taken it personally. I would have internalized it and made it about
I
me.
guess when y'all were younger, how would you have reacted to that?
I don't think you would have actually. When we were younger, I feel like you would have been like, same.
I would have probably still had my feelings hurt.
If I said I want to go get In and Out and watch a movie by myself, I feel like you would have been like, that's.
Well, also our early relationship was forbidden, so any chance we got to hang out with each other was taken.
True.
So if she had said I want to spend the night alone, I would have been like, that's kind of mean. But
that's a good point. Because there was one time that we did get in an argument because we never got to see each other, and he went and saw a movie instead of hanging out with me.
But I chose wrong, and
No, it was, but that was the young. I can understand Dean's perspective through that lens of being like, what about me? You know,
well, totally. And I think that even
like,
if
it doesn't feel like you have a lifetime, you know.
But you're giving him I'm gonna hang out with you tomorrow, but just tonight I'm gonna do my laundry and have my chill night tonight.
You're right.
If this were their situation where there's full range, I probably would have been. My feelings would have been hurt, but I would have not made that her problem, and I would have said, "You absolutely go for it." So I can't. I'm
going to go cry into my pillow tonight.
I can't knock Dean for being a little immature and thinking that it's about him, but I can knock him for then being the way that he is and everything that he.
I think he always took it a little.
He Deans all over the place after that.
He really does.
Because the bonus question is, if you decided to show up at her house with ice cream after she had said she was going to be alone, but she has people over, what would you say to Maya in that scenario? Would you yell at her?
So the Jess being over part is an interesting caveat. If she has people over and she said she wanted to be alone, I mean, why did you bring her ice cream? So I'm going to look at personal responsibility first. I'm not going to look at Maya / Rory's actions. I'm going to just look at myself. She said she wanted to be alone. Why am I bringing over ice cream? That's a way of infusing myself into a situation where I felt hurt that she didn't want to be with me.
Crossing a boundary.
So that's my fault. Then I come over and I see subsequently that she has done something a little bit dishonest. Or I don't know the full story, but in my initial view is that, she invited other people over instead of me, rather than it kind of being an unfolding of events that take place. I'd be hurt, but again, it all ends in a communication about it. I feel like Rory, before she becomes the kind of excuse maker character she is later, she explains it, and she can explain it in a way that this didn't happen the way that it looks like it happened. And when you have a open line of communication with your partner, we have had that from the very early on stage in our relationship. It's like, we don't come to conclusions before talking about it.
Yeah.
I've never liked when people in shows are like, you definitely need space to cool down. You don't want to be emotional and overreact. But I don't like how it's like, I'm just going to cut you out for like several days, give you the silent treatment,
Yeah.
and then we'll talk about it later. It's like, let's talk about it, and then I can decide how I feel.
Yeah.
I think the hard thing too is then like, because I feel like what would have happened is we would have just talked about it, but then like Rory lied, didn't she? I don't know if I'm being that right.
Well, it's because Jess was there, and like Dean and Jess had that tension, and so Paris is like, I liked Jess, so that's why this all happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like if Rory had like just been like, he showed up, I asked him to leave, like he's not leaving. You know what I mean? I feel like that almost would have been more like, because I feel like Dean could feel the energy of like,
their relationship was kind of on the rocks at this point, no?
This is
She
like
was
the
starting
early
to feel
stages.
distant.
Yeah.
This is like the early stages because it ends with that scene of her at the diner with Jess, and Dean and Lorelai are looking at them through the window, and he is like, Rory wouldn't lie, right? And Lorelai's like, no, Rory wouldn't lie. So they're kind of in the denial stage that there's anything going on between Jess and Rory. Like nothing's quite happened yet, and you know, Rory's not necessarily pulling back from Dean quite yet, but like the energy's there. You can feel the vibes.
Yeah.
Vibes don't lie.
I'm gonna give a caveat to all of this because I feel like when you imagine a scenario with yourself in it, it's just kind of an annoying answer. But like you try to like think, oh, what would I do?
Right.
But then you think, oh, well, that person isn't like that. Like if it was Maya, not Rory, she wouldn't do that. So like there's kind of like certain aspects to these scenarios that I'm going to be annoying about and be like, well, Maya would actually do this.
That's okay.
No, I love it.
They're like, I really regret inviting them to play this.
I know
The episode's over, but thank you so much.
So we're going to be like, so like your scenario wrong, we're actually just going to talk about us. And, because like there's like a lot of avalanching that happens in these scenarios, in these shows. And it makes for very compelling television is you can't really tell who's exactly right and who's wrong because everyone's committing little micro aggressions at each other. Totally, so you don't really know who was it the person who pushed the snowball down the hill first? Is it the bigger action in the middle? So you kind of have to like take it one step at a time. So excuse if I'm obnoxious and I'm like, well, actually.
It's okay.
But I feel like at the end of the day, you wouldn't have showed up with ice cream probably.
No.
And I wouldn't have
You wouldn't
Jess
have let
stay.
Jess in. No.
You know,
you would have
like,
gotten Jess out and I would have trusted
I think those
you
are
to
the
do
two
that.
most important situations with this.
Yeah. You truly would have been folding your laundry.
I would have been folding my laundry and enjoying my
But if it did happen, even at the time that, you know, you were Dean, Jess, Rory's age, would you have reacted that way, Hunter?
No.
Like the same way Dean did? Would you have been angry, upset?
No. There was a few moments in our early relationship where I definitely overreacted emotionally, where I would maybe, looking back now, say I put my feelings onto her when she maybe either didn't deserve them or I was overreacting. But I definitely still think that I had a level of like respect and trust in her from a very early age that like I'm not going to jump to the conclusions that Dean did and that allowed Dean's kind of avalanching to take place. I think there's just kind of that foundation we had from a very early age. So I wouldn't have reacted that way now.
Because it is, I would say, an overreaction.
Yeah.
I understand he has big feelings and that's okay. Like as teenagers, we have big feelings, but like there are people who argue with us in the comments, you know, things that we post, TikToks that I've posted where they're like, well, she lied to him. Well, she had another guy over. Well, all these things. And I'm like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but that doesn't mean the reaction is justified.
He's
you
like
know?
Screaming at her in the kitchen with Paris there. Like I feel like it's
what
like
is going on?
Like,
yeah.
Chill.
Yeah, it's
Calm
not.
down.
Yeah,
take it down a notch.
Yeah, just a little bit. But on the subject of Jess and Rory, at the end of season 4, how do you think that Jess should have asked Rory to run away with him? And what would you have told him for him to get the results that he wanted? And should he have gotten the results that he wanted when he asked her that question?
Never ask a girl to run away.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it needed a different marketing package. I think that maybe
Tell us.
he should have been like,
what's the campaign?
Should we go on a road trip? You know, like maybe something like
Coerce
not so
her
like
into it.
yeah, like not so like like
rash.
scary. Yeah, like it just feels, if someone was like run away with me, I would be like, no, like I'm afraid.
You're talking
right,
to high school sweethearts who basically like married each other mentally at the age of like
very
like,
not
very
spontaneous
young.
people,
So not spontaneous.
But I do feel like Rory is not very spontaneous.
She's not
In the early
but
seasons.
he knows her
No.
better than anyone.
But you're so right. So he knows what's best, actually.
Yeah.
I think if he had kind of made it like, look, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Like I want us to start over. Like, I feel like that would have been a better thing. And then maybe a couple days later, he's like, you want to go on a road trip? Should we go like hang out together? Like, I feel like it's just an aspect of coming back and being like, it feels like a little manic just to be like, maybe he's not going to feel this way tomorrow, you know? Like,
so manic. Like what the fuck were you thinking? Like, you haven't talked to her in so long.
right?
The last time you did, well, he comes to her and he's like, I love you. And then he runs away. And it's like, okay, you just dropped that bomb. You ran away. And then you expected her to, I don't know, like track you down, find you, respond
that's what he
to
tells
you.
Luke.
And you didn't even stick around to hear her answer to this proclamation.
Yeah.
After you abandoned her, you know, a year prior.
on her graduation.
Exactly. And you know, she explains it to him like, you leave, no word, nothing, and then like, what do you have to say for yourself? I love you. Drops the bomb, runs away, comes back, run away with me. What? After reading a book about self-help, which, you know, prompts Luke to then ask Lorelai out and finally take that plunge with her. So like, that was a good thing. But he kind of like sees that example and is like, okay, I can do that too. But he goes about it in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
The worst
I
way.
agree. I think like, can we start over? Probably would have been a more acceptable proposal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to start over. He wanted to start over on his terms only. And that was it.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I don't want to be near here. I don't want to be near Stars Hollow. And it's like, well, my dude, look who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to compromise on who she is as a person. Like, you don't get to compromise on the inner workings and like her surroundings and who she chooses to surround herself with. She will always be attached to Stars Hollow. Like, that was the clue. That was the hint of like, you don't know this girl at all. What are you talking about? You know her better than anyone.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
I think the key of what you said though, Maya, is he says, I'm sorry. Because that was what you said. It's like, I'm sorry, let's start over.
Yeah.
That
there wasn't
I'm
really.
sorry.
I mean, it's crazy. I feel like sometimes men will do like anything but apologize. Like, like they're like, well, what can I do? And you're like, well, I mean, you could say sorry. Like, we talk about this all the time. It feels like in TV and like just in so many relationships we've heard about, like people won't say sorry.
Yeah.
They won't
He will
mean
ask
it.
you to run away with him.
Yeah.
Still
But
not
he
say
won't
sorry.
1000%. I never thought about that. He never apologizes to her.
Yeah. And if he wanted to, your question was if he wanted to get what he wanted, like it would have taken a lot more. If what he wanted is Rory and not running away, then it would have taken essentially saying, I'm sorry, can we start over? I've done some self-reflection.
Yeah.
Since this, and I'm different now. I can be.
Yeah,
It can be what you needed me to be.
Yeah.
Can you give me a chance in your life? I mean, there's a huge.
Let me prove myself.
Restart that's going to be necessary before running away is even an option.
Yeah. And is your friend Jess going to be able to rely on you during this transition period of trying to win Rory back so that you can help him through this time?
I forgot that Jess is coming to me for advice, and this isn't.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Okay. Okay. So I'm the loyal friend. Yeah. Well, would I be able to be there for him?
Yeah,
and assist him as he's like trying to do the restart.
As he's proving this.
I think so. I mean, I think that
depends if he takes your advice or not.
Depends on if he really listens. I mean, I'm someone I don't take it personally if I give someone advice and they don't take it.
Yeah, smart.
So I think I'd be able to watch him even if he failed. Or
I feel like then we'd just be like, oh, damn, Jess.
I go talk to Maya about it. Be like, can you believe what
really
Jess said? She
dropping
messed
the
it
ball.
again. But I think I would be able to be that for someone like Jess. But it's just really hard to imagine with how, like we said, how manic of a character he is at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 1000%. As a Team Jess stan, I remember watching that as a kid and of course being like, no, Rory, run away with him because I just really wanted that.
Yeah.
As an adult, it's like a car crash that I can't look away from. I'm like, I have to keep watching, and yet I'm just like, Oh no, it's it's so bad to watch because it's so manic, but I think he needed that crash in order to become the character that we see him return as in season 6. He needed to fall. He didn't realize how far he had to fall until Rory really rejected him, because he almost rejected himself at the end of season 3. He didn't even talk to her about it. He just was like, I'm going to go because she's going to reject me. He didn't give her an opportunity to. And so I think that like then hearing the rejection, once he comes back and tries to like get her to run away with him as if that would ever happen, it's like, okay, he's hit rock bottom, and that's what he needed in order to step up as, you know, whoever he comes back as in season 6, and to then pivot his relationship like eyes onto his relationship with Luke.
I agree with that.
Definitely.
I think it's good, but it's so hard to watch. It's like, you're so manic, you're gonna get there, baby, but this is tough.
I kind of like this spin-off TV that's happening in my mind, where like these characters kind of show up at your front door and like, hey, this thing just happened. Can you help me?
And you're like,
come inside. You make them a latte.
Honestly,
espresso machine.
That's how it would go.
You all sit down.
I love it.
Get them caffeinated, and then we'll figure out a solution.
And you'll figure
We're
it
gonna
out.
dive this.
Like this crossover TV show that exists, like just on like
I
the
would like
periphery.
to watch that as well.
Just like nothing's really going on until like a character knocks on your door and needs some advice.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like maybe we're like the therapist that talks to Lorelai at Emily's house, the one they try to set up with.
You guys are Jan from The Office, both of you.
Yes.
I love it.
Oh, I love that. Speaking of Richard and Emily's house, in this one, y'all are going to be Richard and Emily, which in the last
We are going to be Richard and Emily.
I hope this isn't the situation I'm thinking of.
It probably definitely is, but I do remember in the last episode, your contact pictures were Emily and Richard, which I loved so much.
No, they're not anymore.
You switch them up, but they were at the time.
After I saw Penel and Lot, and it's just like,
this has to go.
Gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question is, Maya.
Yes.
How would you have reacted if you just found out that Hunter has been having 30 years of lunches with his ex-fiance?
You can be honest.
Yeah, I mean, like, I hope I don't get hate for this from, like, anyone who likes us, but, like, I'm kind of a boundary queen, and he's a boundary king. Like, we really have these things where we're like, hey, just to let you know, this is a hard line for me. Like, this is something, you know, honesty is, like, very big for me, and I have made it clear from the beginning, like, betrayal is betrayal. And 30 years is so long to be just, like, lying and not telling your wife this. Like, it doesn't matter if anything didn't happen. Like, that's so weird and strange.
It's the same.
Why wouldn't you tell her if nothing was going on?
Yeah, and so I think I definitely would have separated, but, like, I don't think I would have been able to ever get over that.
Yeah, that would be
like, I don't think I could come back from that.
What if shortly after it happened, Hunter's mom dies?
I'd probably come back and
Sucks
comfort.
to suck is what you want to say.
I'm just saying, no. So sorry. That must be really hard.
And I want to cushion this
Penelin.
though. I want to cushion this though because like she's having she's trying to tread lightly. I fully support this boundary. Like this is something. Yeah. This may not be something that other couples would agree with. They may downplay something like this, but to us and what we value, this is like this is an affair. It is not redeemable.
And if you haven't said, maybe there's some couples who like that's not as big of a deal to them, and that's okay. Like I would never judge someone for being like, oh, I'm gonna stay with the person I've been with for 30 years. You know what I mean? Like that's totally fine too. But I think when like there's something in your relationship that you make like so sacred, and you're like, this is like my make or break, and then they do that anyway, you go like, okay, they don't care about me, and so that's just the way it is. And so yeah, if I were Emily. I mean, it's also a different generation.
We're speaking from not having a 30-year marriage under our belt, too. So, like, I don't know how upending your life that would be to just end your marriage. Totally. Which they do try. Yeah. They do separate. But they ultimately, I think, in the back of their minds know it's not permanent when they're doing that whole charade. So we can't speak from the experience of how awful that would be to end the marriage altogether. But if it were now, I mean, that would probably be the result.
Yeah, and also I think, like, even speaking, like, I'm Emily, he's Richard, like, I'm fully in this, like, you know that resentment's never gonna go away. Like that, I feel like she probably brought that up till the day he died. Like it did not go anywhere.
How could you not? It's a betrayal of trust.
Like anytime they disagree from then on, she's like, Penel and Lot. Like,
correct.
Go ask her.
Yeah,
she can help you through your mom's death.
It is something that they kind of like do away with as the series goes on. Like they don't really ever talk about it again.
Yeah.
And I guess I understand to a certain extent, but it's almost like once the hatchet is buried, it's buried.
Yeah.
And
I am curious, like, what was the reason that was
what was the reason?
brought in?
Yeah. I want to say that I think that a lot of men want to be able to have this facade in their mind that I could do anything and my wife or girlfriend or partner is committed to me.
Right.
And it's like, and that's what I think even our culture kind of values, like relationships that are ride or die, that are just like anything. And that's true love. I would argue that is not true love. In fact, it is enabling, and it is seeking an excuse to be able to do whatever you want. A true loving relationship that considers the other person is one that is aware of where the boundaries are for you as individuals, the relative boundaries you have, and just the straight human boundaries that it involves, caring for and loving for another person. And so would I like in my mind, my own personal mind, be able to say like, yeah, Maya's going to be with me through thick and thin, no matter what? I know that's true, despite the fact that there are boundaries and things that I can't do and continue on with this relationship. It doesn't mean that like we have like this ultimatum, fragile relationship. It just means that like we recognize human trust must be there.
Yeah.
There are deal breakers, and that's okay.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean, like, I feel like the thing that can be a comfort to everyone is, like, you can love someone endlessly, Like, I don't think that ever goes away, even when they hurt you. But, like, there's just such a betrayal when you love someone that much, and it's intense. I don't know. That whole plot line, we were both
that was
like...
a bummer.
Yeah.
Such a bummer. It really villainizes Richard because the whole, like everything that happens from there on out, like the downfall of their relationship, everything with Jason and the way he goes after him. Like we're at the beginning of season 5, as I mentioned, and I just can't help but like get angry anytime Richard digs at Emily because I'm like, you're the reason that you're in this situation. Like, stop it.
Literally. Have you guys seen the Tolerate It edit with Richard and Emily?
Oh,
it was.
I have not.
Yeah,
we need to send it.
I've seen the Lindsay one, the Lindsay and Dean one.
Yes, I saw that one, and that one was very sad too.
They quite literally are laying the table with the fancy shit.
Yeah.
She is putting the candlesticks. It's tragic.
It's so sad.
Yeah. Not you tolerate it.
Yeah.
Like, just
horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. But
on that depressing note.
Speaking of boundaries, I feel like this next one is a really good one to lead into that, because this is another one we're going to be characters. Because Maya, you're going to be Lorelai in this, and you have mixed feelings about your parents. Mm-hmm. If Hunter decided to sue your father, what would you do, and how would that impact your relationship?
I am of the belief that so this is, I'm going to say that this, like, Hunter is Jason, right?
Yeah.
Like, all my history with Hunter. I personally think that when I know they're not married, but, like, when you marry / are in a serious relationship with someone, engaged, married, etc., like, that's your family now. So I'm not saying I'd be like, yeah, slay, like, sue everyone.
Sue away.
But that would be my ultimate priority. And also, I think, like Jason kind of ate, like, he kind of had grounds.
Jason was awesome.
Because I feel we really like Jason. I don't know if we talked about this with you.
I don't know that we did. And we actually just recently, when we're recording this, I know this is airing in a month, so maybe it won't feel as recent, but we just had a Jason episode and a Jason to consider episode where people called in and shared their thoughts, because there's a lot of like division over him.
Yeah, he's very divisive.
True. Yeah, I feel like that's true. And we just felt like he was like a really good match for Lorelai.
Really good match.
I could see how someone might be like, maybe they're too similar, like maybe they're both a little too quippy, and it's like maybe it gets annoying for people. Yeah. But we just felt like they were a really good like partnership and match, and like I don't know, I just think it was we really enjoyed them. So that being said, like Richard did cross him, you know? Like, I think it's, like, pretty fair for him to be like, I have to do this. And, yeah, I would support Hunter in that.
Let me just tell you in my legal background.
I know, it is ironic, because, like, you could.
Family and business.
That's right.
Family and business do not go well together. So it is inevitable. The lesson through all this is if you can avoid family and business, it's something you should probably avoid. But because this kind of stuff happens. I mean, you look at his legal rights and the way Richard screwed him over. He's within his right to do that, but now he has to consider the moral dilemma and relational dilemma of, am I going to sue my fiance? No, they were never
They were just together.
They were just
girlfriend, my serious girlfriend's father, or I'm going to just have to let it slide and then resent my girlfriend's family for the rest of
Also, I would like
the
to
relationship.
say, I feel like Lorelai didn't even really like Richard and Emily that much. So I feel like I would have been like, honestly, that's the cherry on top. Like,
yeah, I know.
That's what I always felt. I was like, didn't you want to sue them too for anything?
Feels
For emotional damages.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny
Just
because
tack it
when,
on.
some people called in to share their thoughts, and one of our callers said that they felt like Lorelai didn't really like Jason that much. Like, didn't
That's
like him
fair.
enough to choose him over her family.
And like deal with the drama.
You know what I
to deal with
think?
the
That's
drama.
fair.
I think that Lorelai didn't like that Jason was the only boyfriend that held her accountable.
I did kind of feel that way.
I think that Jason was the strongest figure that she dated on the show.
I think he pushed her.
Luke presents other ways to do that throughout their relationship, but in more passive ways. I think Jason pushed her in ways that no one else did, and she didn't like that.
Someone also called in and said that they felt like Lorelai and Jason would have also been a really strong team because of the way that he encouraged her, pushed her, etc.
Yeah.
But another person brought up a very interesting point that emotionally, and we saw this too in our season 4 rewatch, that we felt like emotionally we didn't really get a glimpse of like how he was going to be there to support her. Like when Gran, the last time we see her, kind of like publicly chastises her at Friday night dinner, being like, you're running out of money, you're hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
And Jason's right there, and like, who's she
Just
crying
eating
to
his chicken.
afterwards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, where was
Yeah.
that conversation? Like, if I saw my partner being like kind of dressed down by their family member afterwards, I would be like, are you okay?
Yeah.
And maybe that did happen and we didn't see it, but we never hear mention of it, so I'm assuming it didn't.
Yeah.
And then
That's true.
when
That's the rule of
That's a good
television,
point.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta
It's
just
not
assume what you
important
can
if you
see.
didn't see it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Amy loves to write off screen things like into the dialogue. She'll be like, oh yeah, this conversation that happened off screen, we have to talk about it here, but we
Yeah.
don't have to see it. She's the queen of that, but we never hear about it. So I assume it didn't happen. And
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
when Gran does eventually die, like Jason doesn't do well with death. And that's fine. Respect it.
Yeah.
It's fine. You have your own boundaries for what you can and cannot handle. But like, also your girlfriend's grandmother just died and you're not going to show up to the funeral. Like, forget about the fact that it's your partner's mother. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's also Lorelai's grandmother. And like, where are you in all of this,
Yeah.
And so I kind of wish we had seen more of that, because I think I would have been on board a little bit more with Jason being a really, really strong partner for her. We didn't get enough of
Yeah.
that emotional.
And maybe that's why we like him, is because we almost had less negative to deal with because he wasn't really, you know what I mean? It was like,
Yeah.
he was
Totally.
neutral
Surface level.
almost. Yeah, like,
Well, you get to, like,
Luke,
build
we saw
that in your
so much
head.
negative. Yeah, exactly. Like, there was so much negative with Luke and Christopher that this was like the person we could be like, oh, well,
And we appreciate a couple who can banter. That's a really
Yeah.
cool. So we automatically assume like, oh, if they're joking
And
with each other, they must be
And I
like.
feel like
Yeah.
I never liked how like Lorelai would always kind of like joke with Luke and Christopher, and they would always kind of be like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they wouldn't get it sometimes.
Yeah.
And I feel like that you have to have.
Yeah.
You
Or
know,
they
that
wouldn't play
chemistry.
back.
Or
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Jason was always ball.
Yeah.
We talked about that a lot in our episode, that they just had incredible banter.
so
Chemistry, we also talked about how we kind of wonder how it would have played out if, not that Chris Eichman is not an attractive man, but like if it had been played, famously Haley says, by Theo James, like would we be like, yes, like, or if older Milo Ventimiglia played him, like would we be like, yes, Jason,
I think absolutely.
If Theo
Right?
James played Jason, he would be the fan favorite.
Game over.
He would.
Game over.
Yeah.
He really would. That's so true. And I wish we got to see that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know,
I'm
it's true.
Every time I
But-
mention it, I'm disappointed.
But back to the original question, I think that the fact that you guys are married, you guys have a very deep relationship, I think is it does change the game, because Lorelai and Jason's relationship didn't really have an opportunity, especially because they were keeping it such secret. It didn't have an opportunity to flourish into something that where you would consider that person like, this is my family now. So like it was kind of still at that surface level stage, you know, that she was like, I don't want to deal with the drama.
Yeah,
we gotta break up.
Something that I think everyone listening to our takes has to consider is that when sort of the backdrop of our opinion on relationships involves heavy communication. Like we always say this on our socials, like over communication. Yeah. Because we understand not everyone's like that, like us. We are both we're both yappers, as we say. But
we have a podcast, so we get it.
Right. Yeah. Over communication. And so I think are watching these scenes that are kind of social situations where they're not just with each other, but they're with others, or even when they're with each other, they're in public places because it's television and they're not going to like do the at-home dialogue as much. So I think we are projecting a certain level of healthy communication onto these characters,
which we
and not to say our communication is always utmost healthy, but you know, we're projecting that onto them, assuming they must like have like a good line going. Yeah. And in actuality, I think we should follow more of Tara's rule of like, if we don't see it, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so I've never considered the fact that like Jason and Lorelai didn't really have like much like, emotional connection beyond just their chemistry, like their kind of banter and wit.
Yeah, because you were like painting their relationship with your own toolbox,
which a lot of people do. We had a caller, our friend Christy, called in with a very passionate, like, no one can convince me otherwise. Jason was the right person for Lorelai. Like, perfect partner, should have happened. Like, love where Luke and Lorelai go, but you know, this is how I feel, and I respect it. I totally get it. Quick aside, when you were saying the over communication, all I could think about was the reel you posted recently about how you were wearing an outfit that you absolutely loved, and then Maya commented on your shoes.
I know that.
You were like, I love it. Tell me how you feel.
Yeah, and that is really the message, though. Is like, okay,
maybe that wouldn't work for some people.
It wouldn't work for some people.
I'm always like, I understand if like there's some people that maybe need to like sugarcoat a little bit more.
And you have she has influenced my fashion as of late. Like, there's certain context things there where like that makes it appropriate. You obviously don't want to just like go up to your spouse and be like, hey, that skirt is hideous, you know. But
you look bad.
But it was a funny thing that happened, and it does illustrate that point of over communication. Lay everything out on the table so that you know we're getting the real deal all the time.
Yeah. Totally. And I also feel like y'all aren't going to like come forth with something like that like you have an emotional problem with still, or some sort of like emotional turmoil surrounding, so that like you both feel safe in presenting the thing. So whenever those come up, I'm like, they're good. They got it. They're no one feels bad.
That is the thing, because I do feel like we just had moments early in our relationship when we were young where we were kind of like, it's so much easier to just like talk about it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And just like kind of say what we're thinking. And that doesn't mean like say, like, obviously you should filter what you're saying to make it kind. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to be like, I hate those shoes. But like, I would want someone to tell
casually
me like,
cruel in the name of being honest.
Oh my gosh. You guys are so good with that.
She's just
speaking my language. Like, I feel like it's just like, I want someone to tell me like, if I have like something in my teeth, or like maybe my shoes don't match or something, and I feel like you're kind of the same way, so we're like, all right, we got this, and it's like a safe haven that we know we're not being mean, like we're just trying to get it done, you know, like trying to like be our best selves. I don't know.
Yeah. You have a teammate going out into the world.
Yeah.
Someone to check you. Which we all need. Some people need it more than others.
It's true.
Which is maybe why I don't have a teammate.
Speaking of being a team, so your friend Rory comes to you and tells you that she found out that her current boyfriend slept with other women during a 2.5-month period where they did not speak.
Yeah.
Do you think this is grounds for her to consider herself the victim of cheating? Especially because she found out months prior to learning this information that he told his sister that they were broken up. Is she still in a relationship, even though he didn't say we are broken up? Is she still in a relationship to be cheated on at that point?
I'm not gonna lie, this whole storyline is one of my most confusing. I feel like I really don't know
We talked about this literally 3 days ago, being like, I bet Tara and Haley will ask us about this.
Because I really love it. But like, so it was 2.5 months, right? And they just didn't speak, and she didn't think they were broken up, but he did.
Yeah. And on Thanksgiving, she found out that he thought that. So at any point after that, she's in a relationship by herself. If she thinks they're in a relationship.
Yeah. So it's like, it's done for her at that point. Okay.
Yeah.
I think, here's what I think. I think it is so understandable for her to be upset as long as she wants or end the relationship. I don't know that it's technically cheating. I feel like that's more of a misunderstanding, but it is shitty. Like, that's what I'll say.
Well, this is what we said. This is what we said. It's not cheating if you just want to be snobby and definitional about it. Definitional, that's not a word. But, you know, like, you want to, like, have a definition of cheating or whatever. Fine. But you forfeit the right, Logan, forfeits the right to a continued relationship if Rory decides that that's a deal breaker for her. Yeah, it's the same thing as the Rachel and Ross We Were on a Break, just on a longer scale. Obviously,
totally.
That was a
to be
night.
fair, that one always felt worse.
That one's worse because that was just a night of a bad fight.
Yeah.
But here we have 2 months of not speaking.
Yeah.
It definitely is more in favor of Logan. But when you choose in an interim period, no matter how long, to be with somebody else, whether physically or emotionally, you are now forfeiting the right to claim that you were that like you have some entitlement to this person anymore. Like it's now completely up to that other person on if they want to consider it cheating.
They've been wrong.
Informs Rory, I mean, it's shitty. It's not good. But is he supposed to be beholden to this person who just cut him out of their life completely because she operates on this, like, even if I can't see it, it's mine mentality?
Yeah.
So when he is trying to win her back, it's this, like, sense of, like, he's trying to win you back because you guys are not together anymore. And you have not been together for a considerable period of time. So it's kind of like this feeling of, like, Rory can decide how she feels about it, but I think that she also has to consider that she probably hurt him by not saying anything and then considering this cheating because at what point does her ownership of him end and his consideration end?
I think if anything, it's like he didn't do anything like textbook wrong, but like if she's hurt by it and he wants to get back together with her, like that's where they have to figure it out. And that is hard though, because I do feel like she has this, you know, like how we talked about what she does with Lorelai, like they both just like stop, like freeze each other out. And that's super unhealthy. You know, you can't just like in a relationship be like, all right, now we're not talking for 2 months. Like that doesn't help anything. So that's a good point.
It's tough. It really is tough.
It's a valid point. Like when they brought it up, I was like, well, I stand alone. I'm on an island.
Because it's hard. It's hard because of how overwhelming it is, because he definitely fucked her over in the sense of like sent her in with the bridesmaids, found out like that.
That's the fact that like he didn't. And I know this
told her when they got back together.
That's what I was gonna say, and I know that this may ruffle some people's feathers of like, does she need to know? And it's like, she kind of does. Like,
she does.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't want to say I would want to know. It's like no one wants to know that, but like I would.
But like
want
I'd
to
also
be
be like, where you been?
Yeah, exactly. Like health standpoint, even maybe let me know if it's like 10 people. Apparently, like
Exactly. From a health standpoint, hello.
It's got to just be responsible.
No, truly. It just is so embarrassing to walk into a room full of people who know more about like what happened with your boyfriend during a period of time that you didn't talk than you do.
Yeah,
and
that's horrible.
It feels awful to be the only one in the room who doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, I feel like the writers knew that Haley's point was so valid that they had to give Logan a little bit more of like an edge. So like, let's have him screw this up even more. By like having her, because that embarrassment that drove how upset she was. And made it more of a problem because of how she was publicly embarrassed.
I think my other advice would be, don't forgive him if you don't actually forgive him. Like. Totally. That was all pretty bad too.
Yeah.
Totally.
She just kind of froze him out again, but like in person, and they were living together. Like that all just felt very weird and like, you know.
Well, and then she only forgave him after he had a near-death experience.
I know, and she went in prison. Yeah. It was all really bad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Do you think she told him that she cheated on him?
Oh, yeah. Did she never
tell him?
Jess gives her that agency and is like, you know, I hated the way they ended this. Like, if it helps now, you can tell him that you know, kiss me if it helps. And I'm like, stop it. No, that's
it doesn't actually just, it doesn't help at all.
That's weird. Just stop talking.
Yeah.
Just stop. Yeah. But I don't know if she ever does, because honestly, at that point, like, what's that going to do but perpetuate really bad feelings between the two of them, because Logan already has sour feelings towards Jess from the time that they met, and obviously had a blow up that led to the breakup of Rory and Logan. So
yeah, and then it's just like, okay, so are they just every time they get in a fight and someone like does something wrong, is the other person just gonna like get back at them? Like
exactly,
it's so unhealthy.
It's just like this ping pong match of revenge, you know?
Yes,
yeah. Because I feel like a lot of my questions are like, what would you tell Rory, like if she went to you instead of Paris and you were eating Chinese food, the three of you? Yeah. I feel like your answer would just be like, why don't you talk to him?
I would honestly be like, you guys should probably go to like couples therapy.
Talk to him and don't act on your feelings. Because I feel like you need a mediator with
that. Like that's so complicated that you probably need someone to like guide you through that.
Yeah. You need a third party.
Process your feelings without going and doing something else about it. Like process it with that person you have those feelings about. If you ever are having feelings and your instinct is to go act on them with some other person, odds are that's going to be a harmful act. Yeah. So you're going to either hurt the person you feel badly about or take advantage of the person that you're acting with, Jess being the kind of being taken advantage of in that situation. Mm-hmm. You got to be able to process your feelings without making it harmful to other people.
Yeah. I also thought that like it was interesting how every time that she and Logan would get in like a fight, even if it was just like 2 minutes after, she would tell Lorelai like all about it. And then she'd call her back once they made up and be like, we're fine now. And I was always like, oh, Rory. Like,
I know. I understood why Lorelai was like on the sidelines kind of being like, what are you doing? What is this?
Based on what she's hearing,
she's like only hearing the bad because she kind of only comes to complain to her when it's not good. So it's like.
And we've all been there, like with our friends where, you know, like I've been on the receiving end and I've been, you know, the one kind of being like, oh, I don't know what to do when things are hard. But like you don't hear so much about the times when things are really good and explain why you're in the relationship. So of course, from your friend's perspective, and in this case, it's Lorelai. She's like, "What are you doing? Because this guy kind of sounds like a douche."
Yeah.
Totally.
How could Lorelai have better communicated to Luke in season 6 to avoid the ultimatum that ultimately led to their breakup? What should Lorelai have communicated, and what should Luke have communicated?
We actually talked about this.
We talked about this
a couple weeks ago.
I think we have a game with Lorelai's last two seasons of, is she manic or is she acting appropriately? I don't know what the opposite of manic is.
Were you silent? Or were you silent?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was a super manic episode, but she was justified in her feelings behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she comes to him hyperventilating practically. Yeah. And not only is that setting the scene, the desperation is fair. I mean, the feeling of like last resort, I gotta just do this so I know. I get that, but you're not going to get the best resolution, whether it be closure or positive growth from that.
May I say that it kind of gave Jess asking her to run away with him, you know? Like, it was so, like, the right thing, you know? Like, you had the right intention going into this, and, like, she even more so, like, really had, you know, she was kind of driven mad, I think, by, like, how he was acting the whole time. And she just didn't, I feel like she almost lost her footing, like, kind of coming into the diner, like, his place of work, and, like, being like, like, I feel like she definitely should have just been like, okay, I need to talk to you today. Like, we need to have a meeting today. We're going to have a conversation.
It's because she let all of that, like, build up in her.
And then Jen from The Office really cooked it for her.
It was just all Jan's fault. And
it usually is.
And so for it to be like, instead of I can bottle these emotions up just a tad bit longer to have a discussion with him when he's able to have it. And he's not correct in saying you sprung this on me and I need time to think, because his whole issue is that he always just needs time to think. But he is right to not be like, you're giving me an ultimatum to go to Maryland with you, right? As a Maryland or whatever, to go elope right now, and I have to do. I literally just serve someone some fries.
I'm
I'm literally at my job.
That was justified for him to be like, give me a second here.
Give me 20 minutes, not like give me 5 years.
Like tomorrow morning is great.
But I do think she should have given him an ultimatum when they sat down. Like, I feel like she should have been like, I'm telling you right now, like, we need to get married or I can't do this anymore.
Totally.
You know, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to answer
so you're
right now,
ultimatum.
but I think I am. Yeah, I think maybe not in that moment, but like saying like, we got engaged. We said we were going to do this. I want to do this before this point. Can you do that? Think about it. You know what I mean?
I think ultimatum, if you look at, this is maybe a cynical way of putting it, I think I'm also pro ultimatum as a negotiating point, because it also is about compromise. So ultimatum, do this or else is not usually good. But do this or else then leads to, okay, I can do this. And you come to a collaborative effort rather than okay, I'm going to do exactly what you say, because that can create some resentment later on, I think.
I feel like it's really interesting to watch Lorelai go through this. We always talk about how Lorelai and Jess are very similar, and how Lorelai and Logan are very, very similar. And we have an episode that we want to do later this year about how Lorelai and Logan are two sides of the same coin, because it's interesting that Lorelai bottles up all her feelings about this, and understandably so, because she's like tiptoeing around this situation the whole time. Luke has kind of made her feel like she has to. But then when it does kind of come out in this manic Jess Mariano kind of run away with me way, the choice that she makes upon getting rejected, so to speak, is to do what Logan did and fall into bed with someone familiar, which is Christopher. And
such a good point.
I feel like had she not done that, there may have been space for reconciliation, though I do think she kind of shuts off this idea of her and Luke at that point. She's like, okay, you can't do it now, it's over. And she just walks away. But I wonder, had she not made the choice, like the rash decision to like lick her wounds, so to speak, with somebody else, if there would have been room for reconciliation, if she had been able to like breathe and decompress, and if he had come to her the next day and been like, you matter to me, I will do this with you if that's what it takes. Obviously,
the next day.
Literally he comes to her the next day and it's like, okay,
she couldn't sit with her feelings for one night, a miserable, depressing night, but one night.
But I feel like maybe that's why she did it. Like, she was like, it was almost like out of spite, like, no, now you can never have me.
It's
it's over.
Kind of,
to both of them, kind of.
And to a certain degree, I understand why she was like, I can't sit with this feeling any longer, because she had been sitting with it for so long. But totally. I don't know. It's not my style, and it sounds like it's not your style either, to just like resolve your feelings by like stumbling into bed with somebody else. That's just not who I am, because I couldn't think of anything else. I just feel like that's the way she chooses to solve her problems. Totally. Often, as she runs away. Happened with Max.
Christopher,
she didn't run. And then like, everything with Christopher. So it's I really think there could have been room for reconciliation had she just given it some time. But I do also understand the impulse to be like, okay, it's now or never, because I've waited for so long.
That totally makes sense.
Because I think Luke kept giving her these little like pieces, like gave her an
like
inch.
breadcrumbing.
Yeah, totally.
And like kind of driving her crazy. But what I was going to ask is like, what should Luke have done prior to that to avoid the ultimatum? Like, at what point should he have communicated?
So much.
I feel like you should have done a lot.
I'm sure the look on your face, the disappointment.
It just act completely the opposite of everything he did.
Yeah, I mean, just like, he should have included her more with April. He should have been like, okay, I mean, I always really laugh at the scene where he's like, he's like, we can call, or she says like, we can call off the wedding. And I feel like she's totally testing him. Mm-hmm. And he's like, really? Oh yeah, that would help. That would really help. And I feel like she literally wants to punch him a little bit in that scene. Like, he's so oblivious. And like, it's like, he could have said, you know what, this is all too much for me right now. I'm going through, it's a big shock, you know, like that totally makes sense. But let's move the wedding 1 year. Like, let's have a concrete plan from here. Not just like this ambiguous, like, we're calling it off, ... So I think that was a really bad situation that kind of drove her crazy.
Yeah. He gave her like kind of like an open-ended,
yeah.
Will this happen?
Yeah. There was no finish line.
Yeah.
There was no light at the end of the tunnel anymore.
I cannot decide if I think that the postponing of the wedding, if done differently or done with more of a concrete timeline, is good or not.
You think he shouldn't have postponed at all? Or?
I think he had to consider for himself. Does me having a daughter, although emotionally like life-changing, affect the way I feel about Lorelai as a life partner?
It shouldn't have.
It shouldn't.
Yeah,
why would that result in postponing a wedding? Although our culture in weddings, even from the time the show aired to now, is crazy, and there's a lot of emotional turmoil that goes with it.
Yeah. Oh, it was already planned.
It's already planned. He's not doing anything. Men didn't do anything for weddings back then.
He wasn't going to do anything for it anyway.
So he just got to show up and say, I do. And so if the question is do I want to be with Lorelai?
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with how do I be a father to April? Yeah. And so I kind of think
June
3rd or bust. Like, it's not that complicated. And this is coming from a place where if that happened to me and Maya and I were dating and we were 30 and I had a random kid somehow, like, Maya would not be an option. That is like, Maya is the one I'd want to have with me to navigate that if she was willing. And Lorelai obviously
100%.
was.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
It's a shame. They should have gotten married. This should have been their anniversary.
Yeah. I agree, because I didn't really think about the fact that like he wasn't doing anything. I was thinking of wedding planning from like our perspective, where like it's a big thing, but like the planning's over.
Yeah.
You're just going to the wedding. Like,
even if the planning wasn't over, he would have not done a single thing.
No.
He would have maybe built them a huppah, maybe some sort of altar.
Yeah, no, he did that already. He's good.
He's done. You know, they can absolutely use the same one.
Yeah. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Exactly.
Like Danes. Yeah.
This does they always remind me, like June 3rd always reminds me of You're Losing Me by Taylor Swift. Because when she says, stop, you're losing me, say something.
It's so them, like, honestly.
It's very Luke and Lorelai coded.
And I wouldn't marry me either.
Yikes.
That's honestly really sad.
Oh, I never even put that song to that. That makes
Lorelai, you would have loved TTPD.
Yeah.
But those are all the questions that we had. Thank you for sharing your healthy relationship perspectives on his very unhealthy
relationship. Thanks for fixing Gilmore Girls.
Conundrums.
Happy to absolutely resolve all the issues here.
That's all right?
No more.
Listen, at the end of the day, it's good TV. You know, this whole June 3rd conundrum and them, you know, calling off the wedding and the ultimatum that we kind of ended with is, you know, I have no idea how Amy would have navigated it. I wish we could have seen it. I think at the end of the day, obviously, Lorelai would have slept with Christopher. That all would have taken place, but
definitely.
I don't know what the
resolution.
We know what the end result would have been. We just don't know what the path would have been to get there. But it does make for good television. And a lot of the fights that happen in the show make for good television, which is actually the next episode we're going to break down a lot of the favorite fights that we see on this series because there are just so many of them.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to listen to that.
Can't wait to listen. Yeah, that's awesome.
But we're so glad that we had you guys back. Thank you so much for doing 2 back-to-back episodes with us.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
always a pleasure to see you guys.
Our pleasure to be here. Gilmore Girls, like we said in the last episode, is now a family pastime that our future kids will have to deal with.
Our kids are going to be like, guys, again?
And they're going to be like, you guys were on that podcast you talked about. You guys are too obsessed with this show. So
weird.
Have you guys ventured into any of Amy's other work? Like, I talked about Bunheads before, but have you guys watched Maisel?
We did watch the first 2 seasons.
We started it and we really liked it, and we're making our way through. So we really like that one.
It's
so
such a great show. I'm really sad that it's over, but it's just
Did it just end?
It ended last summer. Yeah.
Last summer. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I actually got to do background for the last episode of the series, which was a lot of fun. It filmed here on my street. I got an awful haircut. You can hear all about it. I did a whole episode
about it.
Oh, that's great.
To know.
Yeah, we're gonna get caught up, and then we'll have to take a look.
But
we'll have to watch through and then.
It's a great show, and there's been some debate on whether or not Amy will do another Gilmore Girls revival. I don't think we need it.
That. Would I be so excited?
Let's lay it.
Yes,
Let's
but
keep
I
it.
would. I think it's fine.
I think
Either
they
way.
need to be laid to rest. This
Yeah,
storyline.
let's keep it.
They're
Let's keep it.
tired.
Yeah.
Nothing else we've talked about the possibility of her doing like an Emily and Richard prequel, a la The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which could
I
be
like
fun.
that. I actually really like that.
That would be cool.
That I would like to see.
I'd tune in.
Yeah, us too.
The Maya stamp of approval. That's all we need.
I love it. That's all we need. But thank you guys again. And we hope to see you at our event in LA. We'll give you all the details.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Send it
so much
over.
for
We'll be
having
there.
us, and we will absolutely be there.